March 2007 marked the 15th anniversary of Australia's unique music festival, WOMADelaide.
Where is your wife?
The festival brings together and celebrates the many forms of music, arts and dance, both modern and traditional, from all over the world. Now held annually in the expanse of inner-city Botanic Park in Adelaide, WOMADelaide attracts crowds of all ages. Originally inspired by Peter Gabriel, the current festival is born out of a union between the Adelaide Festival of Arts and the WOMAD movement in the UK, and over the years has delighted audiences with performances by hundreds of artists from all corners of the globe. In 2007, one of the headline acts was Nigerian Afrobeat superstar Femi Kuti.
No disturb me with nonsense gist. The fine things of life these people don't see. Their bad mind no green make them get better dream. So with their crooked legs them walk I go redeem. But salvation comes from within. Seek and ye shall find, definitely with music, whose rich harmonies and melodies will surely bring peace. All in the name of peace, we fight and kill to fight justice, forming our only music. From the voice of the soul we speak. Waiting constantly with the English, my brothers. Now they're go breathing the selfish, my sisters. They walk Africa money like the trees around.
WOMAD stands for World of Music, Arts and Dance, and so in that simple way, obviously enough, the initials just talk about a world in which there is music and artistic expression of all sorts. WOMAD began as an idea at the very beginning of 1981, when I was one of a number of individuals who just came together at the invitation of Peter Gabriel. he just felt interested, just fascinated by some of the rhythms that he'd started to hear, and thought, well, would it be possible, would it be an idea to stage some form of event in England where a group from Africa might come and a Western audience might be brought to listen?
And as an old drummer, I fell in love with some of the grooves that I was hearing. As a singer, there were extraordinary voices, but I hadn't heard before. And a wonderful sort of mix of melodies and arrangements. And it just seemed so much richer than a lot of the stuff I was hearing on the radio.
So we just came together, and within about 2 to 3 months, in the early months of 1981, we'd decided that, what a great idea, but rather than stop with just a group from Africa, what about doing something with a worldwide idea of itself? And rather than just one concert, why not do a festival? Looking back, over 25 years, the very first day of the first festival was a Children's Day, and we had 7,000 school children who came together from all over the West Country of England. It was really quite an audacious thing. The festival itself was remarkably reminiscent of what WOMADelaide is all these years later. We had 5 different stages, workshops, of course. There was a cinema, there was an art exhibition. You name it, we did it. And in a sense, because we were so enthusiastic as young amateur people, we didn't know how to stop. It was a baptism by fire, if you like. We lost quite a bit of money. And then through the 80s, we found our feet and learned how to, produce festivals more professionally. And by the end of the 80s, we'd managed to get opportunities to do that outside of England. And we first took a festival party to Denmark in 1988, then also to Canada. And so after our international beginnings in 1988, we were able to work in France, Denmark, Sweden, Finland, Germany. Blimey, you name it, we went for it. And at that very creative and active time, I was very lucky, I think, to meet Rob Brookman, who at that point was the artistic director of the Adelaide Festival.
Many of the previous festivals on which I'd worked had musicians who you may have called world musicians, although that's a contentious phrase, in the programs as one-off concert items. I just had this absolutely huge list of artists that I wanted to bring, and I couldn't conceive of a way to actually present 20 concerts within the framework of the festival. So the idea of a sort of a festival within a festival started to take shape. I came across an article about WOMAD, which I'd not heard of previously. So I suppose this is going back to 1990 or thereabouts. I got on to the WOMAD organisation in the UK, introduced myself, said I'd love to come and see one of your festivals and meet you and talk about a possible relationship. Went to Morecambe Bay, which was one of the WOMAD sites at that time. I met with Thomas Bruman, saw some absolutely wonderful artists performing there, and invited Thomas to come to Adelaide and to look for a site and to really talk about going the next step and cementing this arrangement. And the idea of an Antipodean venture was one that he really liked.
And we went forward with a plan to launch a WOMAD event inside the Adelaide Festival, which is what we did in 1992, and we've been here in South Australia ever since.
We had targeted already the beautiful Long Gully Oval in Belair National Park as our preferred site, and so everything seemed very straightforward. We also got quite a long way down the track in terms of individual programming choices. Everything went rather pear-shaped in about November, I suppose, or December. It was certainly after we released the festival program. We hadn't done our complete due diligence in terms of signing off with the authorities, and when we came to discuss it with the police and the Country Fire Service, they said, well, look, we don't have a particular objection to you using this site, but you'll have to understand that if there's a complete fire ban day, the park will be closed and you will not be able to use it. And given that Adelaide does have the odd complete fire ban day in summer, we had to really rethink very, very quickly. And in a way, they did us the greatest favour that they could have, because having at one stage wanted a kind of a rural idyll reasonably close to the city within striking range, we thought, well, look, let's refocus around the city itself. And of course, this city is ringed by parklands and Botanic Park. Wouldn't that be great? Thus was probably one of the most beautiful festival sites in the world born.
The thing that struck me always about WOMADelaide is the concert site, which over the years has proved to be such a beautiful place to actually present music and for a weekend festival to actually grow and breathe in quite an organic way. I can remember from the first event in '92, which was very small, and year by year there's been more people that have come along, word of mouth has spread, and the concert site has grown to accommodate more people, to accommodate more performances. And the park has been versatile enough so that it can accommodate that growth without feeling claustrophobic. WOMADelaide's continually introduced audiences to new and exciting talent, world talent that we haven't seen in Australia before. From the very first festival in '92 when Youssou N'Dour and Nusrat Fateh Ali Khan graced the stage, I think the audience was astounded by the quality and the absolute musical power and beauty of these artists.
Youssou N'Dour from Senegal, to my way of thinking, is simply one of the most dynamic performers that I've ever seen on stage.
Try to be strong. Be strong to be strong. We gonna try.
I love bringing him back 14 years on from the first time that he joined us. So I guess there was a sentimental attachment to the fact that he was so important to us in the first year, but then the fact that he came back and he performed even better, if that was imaginable. It is one of the sets that lives in my mind.
Adelaide, are you ready to sing? Yeah? It's very simple, easy. I'm gonna do it.
And we've presented Youssou twice here, and in his latter performance, I felt that there really was a singer who just arrived in a full maturity of their life and their expression, and that chap's command over his own voice and over the musicians who were backing him, and in a sense over the audience too. It was so skillful, transcendent almost, I think. those moments of magic, I would connect with Yusu very, very strongly. And also, I think, in terms of what one learns as a result of music, I think the messages of real positivity and positive thinking, especially about Africa, that Yusu has always spoken about, have changed my life and way of looking at things.
From the first festival, there were outstanding world music talent that came, but the local audience really wasn't very familiar with them initially.
We had what we refer to in the business as a small but perfectly formed audience on the Friday night, and did feel, a little apprehensive.
So there was that safeguard, that guarantee of a big name rock act that was a headline feature of a lot of the early festivals.
There was a nervousness, I suppose, that the crowd was principally there to see Crowded House, who happened to be on the bill, and that they might desert us, further into what you could regard as the adventurous end of the programming.
Suddenly the mainstream rock band wasn't the important feature on the bill anymore. I think the audience was more excited about what they were going to find from other countries, what were the great artists they were going to be exposed to.
And suddenly something quite extraordinary happened, and the following 2 days we just saw the audiences build and this sense of commitment and community and passion about the event grow incredibly fast.
While rock music and contemporary pop music is still a feature of the WOMADelaide performances, it certainly doesn't carry that headline billing, nor does the audience expect it.
During the course of the weekend, so many people were coming up to us and saying, look, this has got to stay, that by the end of it, we jointly, as I recall, got up on the stage on the final night and told the population of the park that we would be back in the following year. A promise that we had absolutely no way of being able to guarantee.
Rather than the Adelaide Festival taking the credit for establishing WOMADelaide, I'd think it's much more applicable to point the finger at Rob Brookman and say, there's somebody who saw potential for it and actually gave it the opportunity, laid the foundation, and created an opportunity for a quite extraordinary event to take root in South Australia.
This event had been set up by the Adelaide Festival, so the sort of the ownership of it had to be looked at. It had been subsidised within the overall festival program. A lot of the logistics, the people who were required to put it on were festival staff who would have other jobs to do. So, and to actually do that from a standing start over the course of a year was very challenging. And the biggest problem was financial. Mike
Rann has had a personal involvement with this. It's been interesting from his time as an arts minister and now as Premier that he's struck up a good dialogue with Rob Brookman and Thomas Brewman. WOMADelaide needed bipartisan political support for it to prosper, and fortunately it's had that from all sides of politics. They seem to understand each other, they understand what the merits of an event like this is, and they both understand that it's going to need support for it to flourish. They put the energy in and they got repaid with success.
1996. And we thought, what about the idea of putting a bunch of musicians on the Indian Pacific from Perth to Adelaide? And this was the brainchild of Colin Kosh, who worked for us for many, many years on WOMADelaide. He and Thomas cooked up this idea of somehow allying trains and WOMAD.
We had brought a whole party of artists to the Festival of Perth, and a great concert took place, and then we all got on board a train which took us from Perth all the way through to Adelaide.
This is certainly something a little different, with artists from Tanzania, the Cameroons, from Bengal. And the club car would turn into a kind of a rolling world music cafe across the Nullarbor Desert. And then, just to really liven it up a bit, a concert in the desert at the outback town of Pimba.
Before we got to Adelaide, one of the two places where the train can draw off onto a siding and stop for a while was in the township of Pimba, up in the north of South Australia, just as you turn down towards Adelaide.
And with the help of an extraordinary roadhouse operator called Spud.
He was also the Lord Mayor of Pimba. He was the man.
We mounted probably one of the most bizarre festivals Australia has ever seen.
July last year we had people approach us and ask if we wanted to do a show in the outback, and we sort of laughed at them, thought it was a bit of a joke.
Spud built a big backyard right off the apron of his roadhouse and out into the red dirt of the desert near Pimba.
Right.
The stage was two flatbed trucks pulled alongside each other, and he just happened to have a bit of trussing lying around his backyard. I well remember the fact that when I went to find the conveniences, that the gentleman's urinal was a bit of guttering that had been hung onto the fence with a couple of bits of fencing wire, and then there was just a spout that went out into the desert through the fence. It was like that.
So we had this very unlikely concert in the desert. It certainly did attract something like 2,000 to 3,000 people who came from hundreds of kilometres around, just down the road, as they would put it.
And the audience was a mixture of bikies, of people from the WOMAD rocket range, of Toyota loads full of people who'd come down from as far north as Freegon and Inaminka. Other people from Indigenous communities in Port Lincoln had just said, oh yeah, we'll drive for a day to come up and see what's happening there. Hippies from the Bellingen Valley, rusted-on WOMAD supporters from Adelaide. It was the most diverse audience that you could ever imagine.
Now look at that, 2,000 to 3,000 people. We are more than pleased. We are wrapped.
I was a bit worried about whether this combustible mix of people would actually manage to hang together for the course of the evening, and it might get a bit restive.
But the moment that stays in my mind was that we had a small group of throat singers from Tuva. And there was just a sense of kind of, slight, I don't know what, uneasiness and almost like heckling from the audience. And so this very unlikely group of 4 shamanistic individuals from Central Asia. And I remember as this began thinking, oh my goodness, what's going to happen? Is this just going to go well or badly?
I came onto the stage to back announce the group who had been doing this great sequence in which they do these kind of sheep noises, thinking that the crowd was yelling out, boring, boring. And I was about to kind of say, come on, folks, settle down, Paul Kelly will be on soon. Instead, I realised just as I got to the microphone that they were chanting, Boris, Boris, because Boris was the guy who did the sheep noises from Shoe Day. And it was one of the most exotic evenings you could spend, and a wonderful sort of moment when Australia met the rest of the world in the most visceral sort of way.
Okay, so we're a performance company from the UK called Stan's Caff, and this is a show called Of All the People in All the World. What we're doing is we have a grain of rice that represents one person. we've got enough rice to represent the populations of the UK and Australia combined. And over the course of the festival, we've been separating it out into different population statistics so that you can get a sense of perspective about your world. Also, we've been putting down things like the population of Australian millionaires next to the population of people who are homeless in Australia, and they're roughly the same. So we try and make narratives and stories about the world and about things that are happening locally so that you get a better perspective about the world.
The special thing about WOMADelaide is that it was born out of the Adelaide Festival context. So it was very much come to as part of a mainstream, largely high arts, multi-arts festival. It wasn't put forward as another rock and roll jamboree. We've also continued to work over the years on the park itself, and I think this is an influence that both Ian Scobie and I brought to WOMAD, and something which has probably had its impact on the way that WOMAD festivals elsewhere go. We came from a tradition where, as a multi-arts festival, you have a strong visual arts component. You bring in street performances, groups like Kidam.
The WOMADelaide event looks and feels very different to the UK event and other WOMAD events around the world. Again, the choice of Botanic Park has a huge influence on that. It's really created a look, an environment and a feel that is unique to WOMADelaide.
This sense of animating the site, not just via 6 stages with dance and music presented in a semi-formal concert setting, but then actually to create this sense that there is this very different kind of world that people could enter, not just in atmosphere, but actually in terms of what's going on as well, so that every corner that you turn, you might stumble across something that might not necessarily be listed within the formal program, but that would delight the eye or the ear.
World music's an interesting term. Musically and stylistically, it doesn't mean anything. It's too much of a big catch-all to try and explain everything that goes on inside it. But for a new type of music festival, which WOMADelaide was in 92 when it was first launched, it was a really intelligent umbrella. It was a smart term to try and introduce something new. It offered possibility rather than actually closing it in. If you were going to say the Reggae, African, Southeast Asian, Samba, Indigenous Festival, who would know what the hell it was about? So world music gave people a sense of what they might discover without being too literal about it.
I think my difficulty with talking with any enthusiasm about world music as a genre is that really it is not one. It's not definitive of anything, and yet it sounds as though it can be. And I think all that term really is talking about is music that comes from somewhere in the world. That can be as far away as France or Tuva or Pakistan, and as close to home as South Australia, or even down the road in Adelaide. And you know, we see no distinction, and in that way have always wanted an absolutely free creative ground as organisers to present absolutely anything. The point is its quality and its diversity, its excellence. And so here in Australia, for example, I think it's been fantastic that we've been able to present some fantastic Australian music. Paul Kelly does spring to mind, really lyrical and superb performer and songsmith.
All the kings and queens in the Bible, they could not turn back time. So what chance have I of a miracle in this life of mine? I only want one day to unsay the things I said and do the thing I did. 24 little hours, oh God, please wipe them all away, and I promise I will change. If I could start today again. I know I'm not the milk and honey kind. Today I proved it true. When the red mist falls around my eyes, I know not what I do. Please give me back today, and I won't say the things I said or do that thing I did. Every minute, every hour, replay's just the same, and I can't stand the shame. Let me start today again. One day, one lousy day, that's all, out of every day that's been before. Since time began, I know my prayer's in vain, but for a second I'll pretend that I can start today again.
The introduction of Australian bands gives the program a very eclectic, rounded feel. It's as though there is really something for everyone, especially younger audiences. I think it's been quite clever to include a lot of contemporary bands that are just rising up the charts, that are bringing young audiences to see them and then being exposed to a lot of other really fascinating types of music at the same time. And those young emerging acts playing on the big stage in front of a big crowd like that really seem to thrive. They present themselves very well. Our kids have grown up at WOMADelaide literally from infants in arms, and they don't necessarily go now because they're interested in the rock acts. They go because they're interested in the entire festival. They've been exposed to all sorts of music way outside what young teenagers would be hearing on contemporary radio. But they love what they're hearing because it's exciting, it's energetic, a lot of it's rhythmic, a lot of it's wonderfully melodic as well.
Some of the work that I really, really love is on the smaller stages. And I think particularly of Jivan Gasparian from Armenia. He plays an instrument called the duduk. And it is one of the most wistful, plangent tones that you can hear. It somehow evokes the most extraordinary sense of longing, and I found myself just utterly moved by his performance. to hear those artists on the smaller stages talking about the cultural origins of what they do, what this music means, not just in terms of I'm a musician, I like making music, but that this is involved in the ritual of my particular culture. That sense of music and dance being completely bound up in the core of people's lives and communicating that to an audience is just as special to me as that fantastic moment when 15,000 people are standing in front of a big rock and roll stage going off their heads.
This song is not my song, but it is a song that I've heard a Torres Strait Islander woman sing. Her name is Christine Anu, and and I fell in love with it because it means so much. It tells a story about Aboriginal women and the struggle and the pain that Aboriginal women have been through. When I sing this song, I like to dedicate this song to my mother. She's just over there, underneath that tree. And I think she's crying. And she's brought my tears on. I don't want to look at her. So I'd like to dedicate this song to my mother and all the beautiful women that are here, especially these women up on stage with me. So much pain, so much pain. Oh, how she moves, how she moves with such earthful grace. Her courage and determination, she knows what she wants, and she will have it. Oh, Aboriginal woman, Aboriginal woman is here to stay, here to stay, never fades away. She never fades away. Yada yada, have a good afternoon. Thank you.
The workshops and the minor stages are fascinating places. I think some of the best music and some of the most enjoyable moments fans have had have been at the minor stages and the workshops. There's a great sense of celebration and a real intimacy in those moments. I think the artists get as much of a thrill out of those as the audiences. So I think a lot of the workshops were overlooked because people were so fascinated by what was happening on the main stages. But there's a lot of word of mouth that travels around the concert site on a weekend, and it didn't take long for people to come back, bump into their friends and start raving about some incredible workshop that ended up with an all-in jam session. And you think, why didn't I go and see that?
Yalla be
I think it can be easy sometimes to overstate the socio-political subtext of the festival. And I say that as the person who probably most regularly gets up on their soapbox and bangs on about it. And that is this sense of providing a place where you can create an alternate and perhaps better world than the one that we live in, and that for 3 days people can sample an atmosphere of a community that might be the kind of community that they would aspire to. And as much as anything else, I think it provides a rallying point. I think there are a lot of people who despair about the world in which we live and who are inclined in the face of indifference on the part of government in particular to retreat to the safety of their own particular enclave and find it difficult to maintain a sense of activism. And I think an event like WOMADelaide can help in its small way to reinforce those people and say, no, come on, keep up the struggle.
Rob Brookman and Thomas Bruman both had grand ideas of social harmony, a world in unison, cultures working together rather than clashing. I don't think it was overly stated by either of them. I think they let the program and the way that they assembled the festivals really speak for itself, and they've been repaid by an audience that actually is very respectful of each other and the environment that they're in.
Australian people of the world, all the people gather for this music as it unfurls for you. The slave logger jumping right, making music for the day and night.
When an organisation goes about creating its festival that way and is successful in doing it, I think that has enormous power. It resonates all over the concert side.
Do it for the music, do it for the love, do it for the music, and nothing else about that's right. Love of music. That's right. Do it for the love of music.
All of the things that we did begin with as organisers, the ideas of participation, of real respect for the audience, real respect for all of the artists equally, no matter what their idea or the differing ideas of fame or reputation that might go along with any one artist or another. What we've tried to create is a level playing field, if you like, of equal respect for everybody in the events that we organise. And so many ideas that I think perhaps intuitively we just did begin with as organisers all the way back when, I think have carried through and allowed us to continue to present really good musical events. I know I would say that, but that's what I think.
Do it for the love of music. Do it for the love of music.
Oh, it's awesome. I mean, it's uplifting, it's safe, it's comfortable, it's good people all around, just having fun.
Yeah, I love it. Just all different people coming together and music that you wouldn't normally hear.
It's great. I mean, it's just like the people are fantastic. You can just go and sit in the middle of anywhere and you just make friends.
Yeah, the whole culture, the vibe of the whole place is brilliant. You get to learn a lot of things.
Say all together on the fire. That's right. Come on, y'all. All together on the fire. That's right. One more.
Everyone's so peaceful and chilled out. It's just good to hang out, listen to some music.
World music's great. It's really cool because we can listen to things that we just got no opportunity to listen to in our day-to-day lives.
carried through and events.